Hi there, everyone, and this is Chrissy from In the Stars by KRISSY.com. And today, in this video, we will be talking about the upcoming transit that we are going to be experiencing. And this is going to be the Mars retrograde na mangyayari on October 31st, 2022, and it will last until next year, around January onwards, and then completely mawawala si Mars in the sign of Gemini on March 2023. So it's going to be a very long energy transit. And during the retrograde season ng Mars, it's going to be very difficult kasi mas ma-feel natin siya much more. Whenever there is a retrograde planet, we tend to experience more of the retrograde things, just like what I always tell people. Whenever there is a Mercury retrograde, you experience more Mercury things. When there is a Mars retrograde, you experience more Martian things. And this could be in a good way or in a bad way. We can experience both of them. And speaking of both, this is in the sign of Gemini, which is a very duality kind of energy. You experience the good and the bad. There is a female energy to it, there is a masculine energy to it. And this is just how the Gemini energy works. So when we actually talk about Mars in the sign of Gemini, we need to talk about what Mars represent first, and then we need to talk about what Gemini is all about. So, and yung ibang mga bagay dito is na-experience na natin kasi technically, August pa lang, nandito na si Mars in Gemini. So, it's not something that we are not familiar with kasi nafe-feel na natin yung Mars in Gemini energy. It's just that things can go in a very extreme way whenever it's in retrograde, kumbaga. Kasi parang everything is internalized. A lot of the Martian energy and Gemini energy is felt much more. Also, we also need to take into consideration how is this working for you on a very personal level. So you will need to take a look on your natal chart kung meron kayong planeta sa Gemini part of your chart. And if you have any planetary alignments within 8 to 25 degrees of the horoscope. So let us say meron kang Venus na 8 degree or meron kang Venus na 25 degree or 19 degrees in the sign of Gemini. That means na matatamaan ka ng Mars in Gemini retrogression during this period. So now that I have explained all of those, I just also want to let you guys know that this is just me explaining to you guys what is Mars in Gemini retrograde is all about. What is the energy na nabibigay niya as an influence so that we know how it works. Ano yung energy in place niya? This is actually very important and I cannot stress this enough because other people actually think that astrology is like fortune telling. It's not fortune telling at all. It's just it's more of giving you analysis of what the energy represents. This way, you actually know how to work with the energy and not work against it. So, alam mo yon, it's easy for us to know why things are happening the way that they are because that is essentially what astrology is all about. So, anyway, without any further ado, let's first talk about what Mars represents. Mars is ruled by Aries and Scorpio. So we can immediately say that this is a very intense energy. It is all about our drive, our determination in things, how we move forward in things, our how we act, how we take action, our ano ba, intention, initiation, all of those kinds of things. Anything to do with physical activity, anything to do with violence and knives, military action, all of those things. It's a very male or alpha male energy, I would say. Now, when we talk about Gemini, no, this is ruled by Mercury. So, we need to take that into consideration kasi ibig sabihin nito, throughout the Mars and Gemini energy, every time na Mercury is going to change sign, meron siyang specific theme na mabibigyan ng influence ang Mars and Gemini. So, magiging iba siya each time. Depende sa energy ng Mercury natin. So, we need to always take that into consideration. So, Gemini naman is a lot of things, to be honest. Gemini has a lot to do with travel, our thoughts, opinion, how we communicate to people, our social life, how we socialize with people, all of those things. And it's about flexibilities in life and ang mood swings natin. It has a lot to do with the market as well. It has a lot to do with trade. So pag iniisip mo ng mabuti, this is actually very important kasi Mercury rules almost every aspect of our life. You know, when we say that we talk to people, everyone talks to people. We always communicate with people on a daily basis. When we talk about markets, kahit na hindi ka business owner, lagi ka nagsha-shopping, you know, that is still market and, you know, trade pa rin siya in some form of way, you know. Having contracts with people is a very Gemini kind of thing as well. Um, it has a lot to do with your opinions in life, yung um, on a negative side, this can be a representation of mga two-faced people. Has a lot to do with education as well, schools, and the choices that we actually make, you know, having two choices, all of those kinds of things. So, and it may have something to do with details as well. The lack of details can be a representation of Gemini things. You know, there is an element of optimism, overly optimism or overly pessimism kind of energy as well. But when we're talking about this, it has a lot to do with writing and speaking, journalism, all of those things, and the media, of course, and the entertainment industry is also ruled by the Gemini. And, you know, a lot to do with gossips as well, learning curve. All of these are Gemini energy. So when we are combining them both, um, this is a Mars and Mercury kind of energy, I would say. So I would, you know, ang initial reaction ko here is that it can lead us to taking action, initiation, which can be very productive in most cases. Pero at the same time, it can also lead us to doing things out of impulse, which can be both good and bad if you would ask me. Kasi, ibig sabihin nito is that, you know, some people, pag uminit yung ulo nila, they might actually do something. It's easy for this energy to be led into violence. And I just needed to say that because that is what the energy is like representing. And we will see this a lot in the news, in social media, na mas marami tayong makikitang mga sugatan, mga terrorism, mga violence, or something to do with war, probably. Because technically, Mars has a lot to do with mga anong tawag dun, firearms, I would say. And then Gemini has a lot to do with our hands, 'di ba? So ang pag-init ng ulo can actually lead us in taking action that, you know, might lead into some form of, I don't know, negative reaction or, you know, physical stuff that can actually lead to some form of abuse, some form of negative situation, which I really don't want to talk about if you had asked me. But I just need to mention them kasi it's an element that actually might happen. So, so it's really something that we should be very careful of as well. Also, Gemini is a mutable sign, so meaning it it has a lot of changes. So, anything that actually occurs, alam mo yun, yung mga events in our life constantly changes. So, kaya siya nare-relate sa nervous system natin. We're always agitated. We're always having some form of nervous breakdown or some form of excitement. So, it's either you are very, very excited with the energy or you're very, very nervous. hindi mo alam. Hindi natin alam kung paano siya mag-manifest. And this is actually the main issue why we need to know more about this energy so we know how we can deal with it. Kasi ano siya like I always tell people, astrology is a forecasting method. It's like pag sinabi ng weather forecast na uulan, hindi ka naman lalabas, 'di ba, ng walang payong or hindi ka naman susugod sa typhoon in a meeting. Syempre, you would want to postpone it or you might not eventually go. It really depends. Pero technically, yung idea here is that we should know what we're getting into. So, and para makapag-prepare tayo. So, kung alam mong may harsh energy na dala ang Mars in Gemini, what do you do technically? You do more of this energy. Kailangan may outlet siya na ilabas, kalabasan, meron kang outlet na ini-invest on so that hindi siya ganun ka-harsh. Kasi ang mangyayari dito, guys, is that this energy is going to manifest whether you like it or not, whether intentionally mo siya gagawin or unintentionally, something will occur that is related to this energy. So, what I always tell people whenever there is situations like this is that do more of what that energy represents. And when we're talking about Mars and Gemini, the number one thing that really comes into my mind is exercise. Exercise, workout, ano pa ba? Saying something to people or doing more communication and social events kind of thing is also a possibility. Pero pinaka maganda talaga dito is having some form of physical exercise. Do something that involves your hands. All of those things. Or taking a swimming class. All of those things can really come into play. Also, ano pa ba ang mga nasa notes ko? Since retrograde siya, no, it's not really good to initiate something. And this is going to be very helpful for those people who are planning to start a business during this time. Hindi ko talaga sinasuggest mag-start kayo ng business during a Mars retrograde. I have seen a lot, and a lot of business ended up in failure whenever they start to do construction work during a Mars Gemini energy. Sorry, Mars retrograde energy, not Mars in Gemini. So it always ended up in failure na parang alam mo yun kasi pagka may retrogression ang Mars, at some point, there is a lack of energy or there is a wild card of energy na nangyayari. And you don't really know how things are going to turn out and manifest in most cases. The good thing here is that, this is a retrograde pa rin. And when we talk about the RE, it's all about redoing something, going back into something, mastering something, reflecting on something. So, ito yung mga moment na kailangan nating pag-isipan yung mga actions na tinitake natin, which can be quite, alam mo yon, minsan challenging kasi technically, Mars does not think. Alam mo yon, that's the reality of things. Mars is a very intuitive person. They act or react based on their survival instinct, based on their animalistic kind of energy. They are more of a soldier. Sila yung mga tipo ng tao na pag inutusan mong lumaban, lalaban sila. And they are more of a fighter. They are not the kind of people that will do some form of strategy work to think, basically. Pero hindi naman sa hindi sila capable. So, it really depends pa rin kung how the Mars energy is gonna go. Pero since meron tayong Mars and Gemini, Gemini is a thinker. So, there is actually an element here that allows the Mars energy to think. It's just that since Gemini siya, it can think about a lot of things and then unable to really follow through with certain things. There's a lot of details, a lack of details na pwedeng mangyari din, and you might end up regretting that. Or it actually really depends on how Mars is going to play out in your life. Remember, it rules both both Aries and Scorpio. Aries is a more of a, very simplistic type of person. Pero ang Scorpio energy kasi is really more of, ito yung mga tipo ng tao na may strategy sila. They know how to get things done and all of those kinds of things. So, if you would ask me, just like Gemini na may always good, may always bad, it always has a lot to do with two things. So, this Mars in Gemini retrograde is not going to be as straightforward as it usually is. Kasi there's always a catch. There's always something of a two things na you will need to put into consideration. So, this actually means na you might end up pursuing something after much deliberation, after you have, maybe you have been thinking about something really, really hard, you have been preparing on something, and then finally you have made your decision, and this might be actually something really, really good, and you might actually pursue them, and it might lead you to some form of good heights that can be very beneficial in your life. At the same time, it could also be a situation na parang you have been thinking about something, and ito na yung bagay na pinag-isipan mo ng pagkatagal-tagal, and then eventually you make a decision na, ay, hindi pala siya ganun ka-worth it. It's time for me to change path. It's time for me to change direction. I need to change my decision about something. Alam mo yun? So, you might decide to cut away from something because feeling mo hindi na siya good for you. Pero, yun nga lang, it's really hard for us to say kung magiging permanent ang resulta nito kasi nga Gemini yung energy. And Gemini tends to go back and forth. And usually, they cannot even choose one thing at a time. They want both at the same time. So yeah, and the good side here is that if you have a Mars retrograde in your natal chart, then this can actually mean na parang alam mo yun, maybe you are a person that you have prepared for something for so long, and may mga pinag-isipan ka na and ready ka na, alam mo yun, to move forward, and this might actually be a good time to actually, take that step forward. All of those kinds of things. Um, so yeah, it has a lot to do with our willpower and determination. But at the same time, on the negative scale, this can actually also lead us to anger, impatience, aggression. And for some people, it can be a very, very depressing time as well. Lalo na pagka, alam mo yun, very prone din kasi for arguments ang Mars and Gemini. Lalo na pag retrograde siya and it's very internalized, you might be so hard on yourself, or people might be actually, alam mo yun, pag marami silang build-up energy inside of them, ilalash out na lang nila to kung kani-kanino. And you might actually be very hard or harsh or critical to the people that you actually love and value. So, also, kung may mga issue kayo na hindi inayos before, it might come up again during this time, and it might cause some form of issues as well. So, let us not forget that during the retrograde period ng Mars in Gemini, magkakaroon din tayo ng Mars square Neptune, and I have been talking about this on TikTok and sa in my Facebook group about how essential to know about this energy is, kasi Mars and Gemini can actually be an energy as well na making someone do something and then biglang atras, biglang hindi pala yun. Not everything is what it is pala. So, there could be lies or scamming na pwedeng mangyari. And lalo na during the square to Neptune, there could be depression, people might get sick, people might some people might offer you into something and then hindi pala totoo. There could be some form of lies with people's action and words all at the same time. Kasi remember, this is Mars and Mercury that is involved with Neptune. So it's actually a very, very tricky alignment as well. So, pero ang maganda naman kasi dito is that throughout the entire transit of Mars, retrograde, meron siyang mga good aspect naman, which is meron siyang trine to Saturn, meron siyang sextile to Chiron, Pero yun nga, meron din siyang square sa Neptune and in conjunct kay Pluto. So this actually means na parang may mga lessons and pwede tayong mag-heal. We can heal from something in our life. Some people might experience pain. Some people might actually experience some form of revival or some form of transformation in their relationships, in specific relationships, or how they talk to people, uh, or with whatever Mars and Gemini is going to be in your chart. So you might actually do something and make it work for the long haul. May chance siya sa ganun. Lalo na if meron kang element sa chart mo na you wanted to do something pero for some reason hindi ka makapag-push forward, hindi mo magawa. Ito yung mga time period na magkakaroon ka ng help kay Saturn to actually push through and be able to do the things that you needed to do, to, have some form of success into your life. Yun nga lang 'no, definitely this is not going to be an easy energy. Kasi may paurong-sulong tayong kind of feeling na puwedeng ma-experience. So, and like I said, the best way to navigate the energy of Mars square Neptune is to actually incorporate both the Martian energy of your life and the Neptune energy. And sometimes it has a lot to do with spirituality, work, and stuff like that. So this is going to be really, really good for people in the spiritual community or yung mga mahilig sa mga new age, kasi it actually means that working on your spirituality, maybe meditation, prayer work, or affirmations of some kind, or exercise, Reiki, or Tai Chi, or yoga, can actually be an act of remedy in its own right for that element. Pero yun nga, it's going to be very tricky kasi we can only control our own actions, 'di ba? Pero how we react to people is going to be a different element then as well. Also, let us not forget that this is just the energy of Mars and Gemini. So, iba pa siya kung paano siya mag-play out sa buhay ninyo. So, yun. Also, when it comes to fighting, no, and aggression with people, hindi talaga suggested na you take the first move during this time. Usually, Mars is all about initiation and taking the first move. But essentially, if you do the first move in fighting with someone or doing something na mean or underhanded to another person, you might actually lose the battle. So, importante na you need to be smart with how this energy is going to be. So, yun siya. And, yeah, so this is going to be a very action-oriented energy, both good and bad. And I would say na one of the other issue that might come up is about something to do sa what do you call those? LGBT community, yung mga ganyan. So, there could be something to do with their fighting for their justice, fighting for their rights. That could be an element na pwede ring mag-show up in as a whole. They will have a lot of initiation for action, and gugusto, there's a lot more stuff surrounding those themes and issues because Gemini rules this element as well. So yeah, so in a nutshell, you can initiate something or hindi dahil bago, kung hindi ito yung it's been a long standing issue na and you will need to work on it na, all of those kinds of things. Also, yung kinagusto ko dito is because of the sextile with Chiron, kasi it actually means na there is always a chance for us to heal. Again, let us put an emphasis na sextile siya kay Chiron, which means na sextile is an energy that if you don't use it, you will never have it. Alam mo yun, opportunity siya to heal. Hindi ibig sabihin na mag-heal ka. Opportunity siya. There is a chance for you to heal only if you will, find ways or do something to actually heal. It's something na kailangan mong either i-initiate or akuin or tanggapin kind of thing. It's something na kumbaga may chance of success to heal relationships, to heal yourself, all of those kinds of things. And also, it really depends. Like for me, for example, this is going to be occurring on my ninth house, and it could be something, about me spreading more words of wisdom to other people and stuff like that, because that is a really more of a Mars thing. Or it could just be me thinking about traveling abroad, or it could be me thinking more about learning something new. And it could be, and honestly, these are the things that I've been thinking of doing pero hindi ko ginagawa. Since I'm always busy and I don't really have the time, but for some reason I am in the mood of doing a video right now, and this is where we we are at this time. So ayun, also, it has a lot to do with certain choices that we have in life. And ito yung time na we should not rush. We should be really thinking about the things that we wanted to do. So, it's actually very important that, maging maingat tayo sa mga choices na ginagawa natin. We don't want to regret anything. And we do not want to um, do something and then pagsisihan ng todo-todo nga, ayun nga, regret something nga, and stuff like that. So, I'm not making sense anymore. But definitely, something to do with information ang kailangan natin pag-ingatan. So, hindi dapat lahat ng information is pinagkakatiwalaan during this time. May mga information na totoo, pero mag-ingat tayo. So, lalo na nowadays, I think very common issue din yung mga scams through the internet, scams through yung mga text and mobile issue na nagiging very, very rampant. Even though I'm pretty sure that the political, the people in the government are doing their best to handle this energy, pero marami pa rin mga issue na pwede mag-lead sa mga ganitong klaseng trouble. So I would say na during that Mars retrograde energy, you need to be very smart. And before you do anything, always think first if that is the right path for you to take talaga. But anyways, guys, so I hope that this short transit forecast reading is going to be helpful for you guys. If you want to know how this transit is going to be affecting you personally in your chart, you can book a transit reading session with me. Meron available siya sa website ko. You just click on the services and then go to astrology readings, and meron tayong transit reading. And if you want to book an astrology reading session with me, you can also book it right there. I also do intuitive readings, and meron din akong magic shop wherein I sell, mga good luck charms and mga spiritual oils that you can actually purchase to bring more luck and protection into your life if that's what you want. And we do also, you can pay via GCash, PayPal, or other manual payments, and we also do cash on delivery. So yun lang guys, all the information that you need to know will be down below the description of this video. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon to get notified whenever I post videos like this. I'll try to post more of it soon, hopefully, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.